Welcome to Path of Exile 2. We'd like to start off by showing some of the gameplay of Act 3, one of the 6 acts in PoE 2's campaign.
So it's 6 acts.
We're starting here in the jungle depths. Act 3 is set in the ruins of the Vile civilization, which fell thousands of years ago. Jungle has taken over their former once great cities, and we'll be exploring it using one of our 6 new character classes, called the Monk. In PoE 1, we had one character class for each of the combinations of Strength, Dexterity, and Intelligence. When looking at the design of PoE 2, though, we realized that many of the new skills that we were trying to design just didn't really fit thematically with the existing classes that we have. Being a spellcaster with a bear form makes sense for Strength Int, but it doesn't really sound like something that a Templar would do. We realized that since we had new mechanics for every attribute combination, it actually made sense to design new character classes to explore the new themes. In PoE 2, every attribute combination has 2 classes associated with it. Strength Int has the Templar or the Druid, on Dexterity you have the Ranger or the more spear-focused Huntress, and on Dex Int you have the Shadow and the Monk, which Mark is playing here. Each class has its own 3 ascendancies that let you further specialize the class in the way that only that class has access to, but they both start at the same location in the passive tree. The quest rewards you're offered on the 2 variants are tailored to the class, but of course, this is PoE. You can still mix and match anything to your heart's content.
Oh yes, that's why I love this game so much. Customization. Alright, so is this an act
come
boss?
Across the boss for this area.
Oh,
in PoE 2, every area of the campaign contains a boss of at least this difficulty. That's over 100 bosses to fight as you make your way through the campaign, and they all have unique mechanics to learn.
Oh wait, so all these 100 bosses, each one of them has a unique mechanic. That is actually super impressive. So it looks like that one has like a swing attack that's like in a cone. So just stand behind it like most of the PoE bosses. It's got a downward slam.
As you've seen from watching Mark fighting, the melee combat in PoE 2 has a very different feel than before. We've done a lot of things to add mobility to combat. Practically every melee skill in PoE 2 has some kind of movement built into it.
Wow.
The Monk in particular is a melee fighter who specializes in mobility over brute strength.
I like this more active playstyle that they're going for. Like you gotta actually dodge stuff. Or just get so much damage that you delete the boss before it even has a chance. But that's really good though, because like it shows that you can actually build characters that are powerful enough. Like in terms of like a progression system. Like you feel you get that power when you get, you know, that Headhunter or Mage Blood in this game, which is really good. Although those items are very, very rare. But even getting some uniques sometimes can be pretty big.
So, as Mark has been playing, you might have noticed these blue markers over enemies.
Power charges?
Mark has a skill equipped called Killing Palm. Whenever an enemy has a blue indicator over it, it means that the monster has low enough life to cull with Killing Palm. Successfully executing the cull will give you a power charge. Okay. This is an important skill for the Monk.
Oh, then you expend them.
Many of the skills interact with power charges. One of the great things about the skill is that it has a built-in dash forward, which makes it much easier to target the skill at the right point when you need it. We've done a lot of work in PoE 2 to make using skills like this feel satisfying. If you're accidentally targeting slightly off the monster, the skill will automatically lock on to the cullable target, and will even do a small amount of pathfinding around obstacles. We really want to make sure that when you've got an opportunity to use the skill, nothing is going to get in your way.
For melee, having a way to pathfind over versus just activating it, wasting the charges.
Once you have some power charges, you need some skills to power up. A great follow-up is Falling Thunder. Falling Thunder without a power charge just creates a relatively small lightning AoE in front of you. But do it with some power charges and it turns into a pack clearer with a large number of extra projectiles. One thing you'll notice here is that like almost every melee skill in PoE 2, Falling Thunder has a bit of extra movement built in just in case you need it. Using the skill within range and you'll do a flip in place, but use it at a larger range and your character will move forward while executing it, getting you into position without any time penalty.
That's really cool. It's like a small little leap slam, right?
In PoE 2 you also get a short period to redirect your target. Notice how you can start the skill facing one way, then whip the mouse sideways to land the skill in a different direction? In order to get power charges, you're going to first need to get some lower life monsters into a cullable range.
That's actually pretty massive.
If you want to charge right in,
for slower attacks,
is a good option. It doesn't do much damage per hit, but it covers a lot of ground. And notice how you can turn as you do it? Generally speaking, you never lose control of your character in PoE 2. If you make a turn at the right time, you can get a couple of extra hits in on the monsters, getting them into range of your cull. Follow up with a Killing Palm, then finish off the rest of the pack with your Falling Thunder.
So far, the visuals, like I mentioned before in the
Now
trailer,
entered the Vaal
looks so
Mechanarium.
good.
This is the place where the Vaal built the various constructs they relied on to power their civilization.
Now this is a find! A Vaal ruin that hasn't been looted? I wonder why nobody's been in here before.
One useful feature that we've added is the ability to call in NPCs to where you are, to give you more information, help you with quest objectives, and so that you don't have to always go back to town. In this case, we'll call in Alba to find out what to do.
This mechanism, if powered with a small soul core, it could open that door. There should definitely be soul cores somewhere around here. They had to power these constructs somehow.
As Alpha said, we need to find a soul core to open this door. Let's explore. If you want to shave off some life without getting too close to some of the more dangerous monsters, a good option is Wind Blast. Wind Blast also doesn't do too much damage, but it keeps the enemies back. The closer they are, the farther they're pushed back, so it's a great option for keeping smaller but high damage enemies at bay. Note that the bigger the enemy is, the less they'll be pushed back, so trying to push back some giants isn't going to be effective. And there's the soul core. Let's get back to the door.
So what level is the character? I don't think it like indicates it. I want to see the inventory, see if they've added any new like trinkets or itemization, maybe like shoulder pieces or something like that.
Consider me impressed. I'll keep investigating in here. Bring me in if you find anything else.
If you need to defeat tougher enemies, it might be time to break out some of the ice skills in the monk's arsenal. Glacial Cascade creates a wave of ice that moves slowly in front of the player. It's pretty ineffective against fast-moving monsters because most of the damage occurs right at the end of the wave, and so a lot of monsters will just walk right by it. But if you can find a way to make a monster stop at just the right place, it can be very effective. In order to do that, you probably want to freeze monsters. The monk has a few different tools to do this. A fairly simple option is to get right in the monster's face with Ice Strike. Ice Strike doesn't do too much damage on the first 2 hits, but attack 3 times in sequence and you can get off a combo that has a much higher chance to freeze. Get in there with that freeze, then roll back and finish the job with a Glacial Cascade. Now, remember how Glacial Cascade had that extra damaging spike at the end? If you've hit a frozen enemy with that spike, it shatters the ice on the enemy and does a devastating amount of damage.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I just casually mentioned rolling back before. Did I forget to mention that in PoE 2 we added a dodge roll to
So it's on every character.
Just press spacebar at any time to roll. There's no cooldown, no limitations.
This
Even
makes
as a
boss
built-in
battles
Pathfinder,
so
you
much
don't
better.
Get stuck on things. When you dodge roll, you're not invulnerable. If something hits you, you're going to feel it, but most things will not hit you. That's because while rolling, projectiles and melee strikes will always miss.
That's
You'll have to roll
huge
out
for
of the way
boss
to slam
fights.
that as
Wow.
AoE, but anyone swinging a sword or throwing a fireball is going to miss. Now, another really
I wonder if
important
there's a way to
function
change
of
the
dodge
cooldown
roll
on
is
it.
lets
Or
you
not
cancel
cooldown
out
on it,
almost
but
any
the
skill at any time.
animation. Oh,
This makes it so you don't feel like
the
you're getting
animation
stuck during
cancel.
a long animation when something is about to hit you.
that's so
It
good.
really changes how skills with longer attack and cast
This
times
is gonna make
play.
the game feel
It makes dodge roll feel
incredibly
like a very
responsive.
reliable way to avoid attacks. So, that's one way to get out of the way of damage, but the monk specializes in mobility, so it makes sense that he would have a few more. Wave of Frost is one of our new attacks with a retreat built right in. You move backwards and throw out a cold attack with a significant freeze. The great thing about this is it puts you at a good distance to follow up with Glacial Cascade and do a whole pile of damage. Hey look, another Soul Core.
The audio seems on point. Like, I have nothing but positive
Another skill you
things
can
so
use
far.
to get some extra freeze is Shattering Palm. Shattering Palm is another palm strike that puts a small ice bomb on your target. Kill or deal enough damage to the target and the bomb will explode, doing some damage and a significant freeze. It's a great option against bosses where the wave of ice might not be enough to get that freeze off, but you really want to get that Glacial Cascade damage bonus.
Get back! Face your demise.
The final skill we're going to show you today is Flicker Strike. It's a monk skill now, and another skill that consumes power charges.
Wait, oh,
If you've played
no more
PoE1,
frenzies.
you know
Okay.
what to
So it
expect.
expends the charge, right?
It's a great finisher for tough boss fights, and it looks pretty impressive too.
Face
Was that like the Vol version? Because it hit like multiple times. Unless he's running multi-strike in it or something like that.
Another door. I wonder what could be in there.
But I really want to know the release date of this, because if it's like 2 or 3 years later, I would be disappointed, but at the same time, I'll be excited to play it when it's up ready. I hope they announce it at the very end of this video.
In order to take down this boss, we're going to need all the tools in the monk's arsenal, especially the combo of Freeze and Glacial Cascade. If you're a PoE 1 player, you might think that you can't really rely on Freeze because there's so many bosses that are immune to it, but in PoE 2, that's changing significantly.
Wait, what?
In PoE 1,
it's gonna make Ice
Freeze
Shot
is a binary
insane.
mechanic. An attack freezes the target, or it doesn't. What this basically means is that in PoE 1, we were forced to add freeze immunity to many bosses, because freeze just trivialized them. Because of that, freezing was something you only really used while pack clearing, and not something you could rely on as a core part of your build for boss fight.
So, is it like build
PoE
up?
2 though, all crowd control mechanics now have internal meters that allow you to build up to a freeze or stun, or whatever other CC mechanic you might be using. It's a little bit like poise from games like Elden Ring, though the meters tend to be a lot smaller than those games. When you freeze an enemy, it increases the amount of freeze you need to do another freeze, but the increased difficulty bleeds away slowly. More freeze will always let you freeze the boss more often, but this system means it will not get out of control in party play or interact badly with other CC mechanics, allowing us to let these kinds of mechanics actually work against all bosses.
That's cool. I'm really excited to try out Ice Shot with leveling, because that could be very, very powerful if you can start freezing the bosses. But it has like some sort of a change with it in terms of like you're going to need to be building it up and get more and more. But by the time that it's like really hard to build up, more likely you've killed the target if you have an efficient build, right? And there is a new node that came out, I think last league on Crucible. Every single time you freeze the target, it takes more damage, and I don't even think it has a duration. Each time the target has been like frozen by you, it just takes more damage. So far, in terms of the boss mechanics, I'm noticing it's very similar to what already exists in the game. You stand behind the enemy. Most of the attacks are in a front or a cone. But I'm sure there's going to be bosses that have different mechanics, right? But I'm primarily seeing that in terms of, you know, giving the game some criticism. But I think that makes sense. You shouldn't have bosses, I don't know, attack from their back. But I like how each boss has some sort of thing that you have to learn. And they said 100 bosses. That's so much work.
Dropped a consumable quest item, the Flame Core.
Consumable?
It's a permanent +10 to Spirit.
It's like going back to like D2, where you had those quests that would give you max
we really want to make sure that you
stuff.
feel rewarded for exploration. It wouldn't
this
be much good
is
if we made
awesome.
all these awesome optional bosses if we didn't have something great to find for killing them. One of
So
the things you might
Spirit
find for killing
is-
a boss is a permanent stat bonus to your character.
Is that like your mana? They just call it spirit? Because as far as I'm aware of, everything is considered mana, right? Unless you're getting like rage or something like that. So unless Monk's system is different, I mean, a spirit might be something. I'm guessing that there is like a bar above the HP that's like in kind of like a yellow. I don't know if that little thing is a little gauge for spirit. But we'll see. They might talk more about it. This is a long video, so we got lots of content. And I like how they're just letting this thing roll. So it's not just highlighting all the good stuff. You get to see raw gameplay. Like, honestly, if you're looking at a good PoE player, unless PoE 2 is way, way harder, I mean, I'm just going to be deleting things, you know, left and right. You get that lightning arrow, you get Vengeance Cascade, you get the, you know, ricochet off of, like, walls. I mean, you're melting stuff pretty fast. But, again, I don't know what level this is or what gear they have. I mean, obviously they're not going to show off gameplay of it zooming, and I get that. But I want to see some of the content creators. I'm sure there's probably some demo at ExileCon, and I want to see if someone's built something crazy. Yeah, but the game definitely seems like they want you to be more active. Like, there's a big slam attack, I'm guessing that does good damage, so you want to roll out of the way. And I think that overall, in terms of design
In
decision,
order to
that's
help us
cool.
with this next area, we're going to call in a sorceress.
I'm so glad
Mark's
to see more
friend
classes.
Octavian is going to send a friend invite, which we're going to accept. And then they can play together.
Same audio. So portal scrolls, it looks like, wait, hold on. This is our first time checking out the inventory. I gotta pause this. I gotta see this. All right, so it looks like, I don't know if that's gold. What is this new currency? So in terms of itemization, it looks pretty much the exact same. There's no like shoulders. I can't even see where the trinket would normally be over here, but it doesn't really matter too much. Looks like there's a support gem. But yeah, it looks like, I'm guessing that's scroll of identity or wisdom.
Together. The Sorceress is the new intelligence-focused character in PoE 2. While the Witch focuses more on occult magic and summoning, the Sorceress is themed around pure elemental destruction. Let's have a look at how she plays.
Visually, it looks really good too.
All the vaunted technology of the Val, and look where it got them. Dead and buried.
I like how fast and seamless that was too.
Seen.
And you just click on it from the left side, so you don't have to open up your inventory. Yeah, so efficient.
Isn't charged. There is still latent energy in this machinarium from its ancient operation. These lines in the stonework should lead to generators. You might need to find some more soul cores to spin them up, but everything looks to be in surprisingly decent condition. Maybe the golems have been maintaining it. In any case, it should still function. We'll have to remove that large core from the wall, of course, but that shouldn't be a problem.
We have some skills here that you'll probably recognize if you've played PoE 1 before, but they feel a bit different to play now. Spark is great in these tight passages since it bounces around. We've added a Pierce support gem to really allow it to hit an entire room of targets.
Yeah,
For a more
so much
single
faster than the
target
monk.
skill, Arc is a good choice.
Yes, let
It
me
does
see
more
arc.
damage to the first target you hit. Now, if you find yourself surrounded, it might be good to use Ice Nova. It hits all enemies around you and slows them down with chill. Just be careful. Getting up close and personal isn't the ideal place for a sorceress to be. She doesn't have the defenses of a more melee-oriented character. If you want to help with the sorceress's weak melee defense though, you could use Arctic Armor. In PoE 2, Arctic Armor is a buff that builds up as you stand still. You can see the ice crystals forming around the character. They'll drop off if you walk. When monsters hit you, they take cold damage and build up to a freeze, so it's a great defense. Just be careful. You have to be standing still for a little while to get the full effect, so trying to stutter step isn't the best strategy. Now, Arctic Armor is an ongoing buff, but did you notice it didn't reserve any mana?
Oh.
How does that work? Well, we were pretty sick of the fact that in PoE 1, basically every character was playing with no mana pool, so we decided to change the way that reservation
And then you
works.
just get like minus mana
There's a
cost
new
on
resource
rings.
in PoE 2 called Spirit.
That's
Spirit
what
is
it
a
is.
dedicated resource you can use for ongoing effects like
Oh
Arctic
my gosh.
Armor, heralds, auras, or even minions.
This makes
Everyone
mana
starts with
spending
100
like
spirit,
builds with
which is enough
lightning
for most ongoing
insane.
effects. But if you want more than one effect, you're going to need some more Spirit. Spirit is available on mods from items and on the
Oh
passive
my
tree.
gosh, this is
But
so
if you're willing to
good.
give up your offhand slot, the easiest way to get it is by holding a scepter.
This is massive. Hold on, I'm just going to be taking some notes because I do want to compare Diablo to PoE
Now,
2.
if you want to increase the cold damage you're dealing, you can use a Frost Bomb. It places a bomb on the ground that reduces the enemy's cold resistance while it's ticking down. It's a great opportunity to use some cold skills before it explodes. And speaking of cold skills, a great skill to use on monsters with the slower cold resistance is Comet. This is a new skill in PoE 2, and it hits pretty damn hard. It costs a lot of mana and has a really long cast time, but it's worth the wait. It does a devastating amount of damage. To help get you out of danger, your character moves back slightly as it casts. It's pretty hard to hit a fast-moving opponent, but it's great on tougher enemies that stand still, or even a large
Animations
attack if you're further away and
the
predict where they're
physics.
going to move.
Like originally when
Now,
PoE
if you
2 was
wanted a mana
first
custom
revealed, I just want to
tuning
talk for like 1 second here, because I do want to compare this game eventually to D4. Originally, when PoE 2 first came out, the physics were not on the same level as Diablo 4. Even when I was playing in 2022, and I had like the early like streamer access review copy that we can talk about. The physics comparing them, I was mentioning like Diablo 4's physics just absolutely blow PoEs out of the water for PoE 2 because they had a demo previously. I don't remember, it was like a year or two ago, and that was like one of the things that Diablo did way better. But now I genuinely think that it's on the same level, if not maybe even better. Seeing all those little ice particles, every single one of those. But obviously it's going to be taxing on the graphics card. But
I guess in
It's
an
on the
emergency, you
level
cast
now.
your free-to-cast Fireball. Where did that come from, you ask? Well, this is a great opportunity to explain the way we've changed caster weapons in PoE 2. Now in PoE 1, caster weapons had a default melee attack that nobody used, and because they had that, they also had a bunch of attack mods.
What do you mean? What about Spellslinger?
Useless to a caster. In PoE 2, we wanted to clean that up. So now each staff comes with a built-in free-to-cast spell. Just put it on and spam to your heart's content.
That's pretty cool.
Now, this particular
Wait, hold on.
staff
I got it. They said free to
basically
cast?
Put it on and spam to your heart's content.
Hold on.
We used to weapons in PoE 2.
I gotta. They said free,
Now,
right?
in PoE 1, caster weapons had a default melee attack that nobody used, and because they had that, they also had a bunch of attack mods that would spawn in them that were useless to a caster.
Yeah, this is good.
In PoE 2, we wanted to clean that up.
They said free.
Now, each staff comes with a built-in
They said free to cast spell.
free-to-cast spell.
Wow.
Just put it on and spam to your heart's content.
I did hear right.
Now,
I
this
had to
particular
verify
staff
though.
is the base type that you get right on the starting beach, and it's quite likely that you're going to outgrow it. So that's why we have a lot of staves with more utility-focused powers for casters to use. Here we have a crystal staff. It's got a pretty cool built-in spell called Unleash. Using it slams your staff on the ground, and will allow you to triple cast whatever you cast with your next spell. Now, of course, you're probably going to want to use that with something powerful, and Comet is a great option. You'll notice that Unleash is one of the few skills in PoE 2 with a cooldown. In general, we really try to avoid using cooldowns because we really hate the feeling that combat is just waiting to be able to use your next skill. But it does make sense for Unleash since it's free to cast, and it's something we want you to be using situationally anyway.
That
Now,
could be
if you're
really
facing something
good.
tough, you might want to try out Mana Tempest. Mana Tempest creates a circle of power in which your character literally hovers over the ground. While in the circle, your mana drains, but it powers up all of your spells. Lightning projectiles fork, beams chain further, and you'll also do a lot more damage.
Ooh, okay. So I wonder if that works with anyone in the party or only you. So you just add Unleash to like everything in the game. That's so crazy for like I have Winter and stuff. This is gonna be awesome.
So with all of these skills, here's a great combo to try. First, cast Frostbomb to reduce the target's cold resistance. Then use Mana Tempest to increase your damage. Follow up with Unleash, and then triple cast the Comet to do a truly insane amount of damage.
Yeah, the physics are insane in this game now. Like, look at all those little particles. Like, if I'm comparing this to Diablo 4, at least from what I like can see right here, okay, it might be just a little bit better in the physics. But I feel like the game's also zoomed out a little bit more, which I like.
This is a good opportunity to talk about how skill gems drop in PoE 2.
Oh, how do they?
Instead of dropping specific gems, you can find uncut gems. Just right-click on them and pick whatever skill you want.
Oh!
The gem will come pre-leveled to the level
This is
of the
so
area
good for
that's
SSF.
offered, so it's a lot easier to change between skills in PoE 2. This time, I think it might be cool to grab one of our meta gems. Meta gems are skills that can have other skills socketed into them, changing how they work. In this case, we're going to select Cast on Shock. Now, let's equip this thing in the skill screen and choose a spell to trigger with it. I think Comet might be fun. Because Cast on Shock reserves Spirit, we'll need to first disable our Arctic Armor. We have to decide if we'd rather have the extra defense or the extra offense of the Cast on Shock using our Spirit.
Oh my gosh, this is just like, this is
In
what I
PoE 2,
wanted.
Trigger gems use a system of filling up cast time on each trigger. Basically, if a skill has a short cast time, then we'll trigger it really often. If it's got a long cast time, like this Comet here, it will take a lot longer to trigger.
So what was
See
the
at the
trigger?
top left,
Oh,
there's
okay.
a counter that says how far it is until your next trigger.
So you just spend like X amount of
There you
mana?
are. Using
It's like the
Cast on Shock
Sorceress
will
enchantment system in
automatically
D4,
cast
but like
Comet whenever
way more flexible. Like the amount of builds. Oh man, this is so
we found the
amazing.
generator. Time to power it up. As power is restored to the Mechanarium, all the constructs are coming back to life. We'll need to fight them on the way back to the charged Soul Core. One thing that PoE 1 players might have noticed is that this character has both ice and lightning spells. That's pretty inefficient, isn't it? It's a big no-no for most builds, because any specialization into cold or lightning isn't going to affect the
Let's
other
get plus elemental.
and generic elemental damage increases are not going to be as powerful as focusing on a single element. Well, in PoE 2, we have another major new system to introduce to solve these kinds of problems, and it starts with weapon swap. Now in PoE 1, weapon swap isn't really used much for its originally intended use case. We imagined that people were going to be swapping in and out between different weapons to deal with whatever situation they were in. People just don't do that at all. And a large
it's
reason
kind
for
of
that
tedious
is
to
that
do
it's
it.
really awkward to do. In PoE 2, we wanted to solve that. The staff Octavian is using here has an ice mod on it that makes it great for when he's using his ice spells. We would also like to be able to make sure that the build works just as well for his lightning spells. If Octavian equips his previous staff in his second weapon set, you can see that it appears on the character's back.
Oh, okay.
Now we're going to open up the skills screen. If Octavian opens
Does it
up the
count
skill
both?
options for his
Oh
lightning
my
skills,
gosh.
you can see here that you can choose which weapon sets are usable with each skill. First, we uncheck set 1 from being used by his lightning skills.
Wait, so that just...
Then we go through the cold skills.
does it
and turn those
automatically?
off with his lightning weapon.
So it automatically swaps your weapons. Oh my gosh, this is like
Now,
insanely
when you use
powerful.
Spark, the character will automatically switch to the lightning staff on his back and then use the skill. When Octavian uses Ice Nova, his character automatically switches over to his ice
And
staff.
even like does the animation.
Figure each skill for which set to use, or both if you don't mind which. There's a very short time penalty to switching, so it can be good to leave some skills on both sets if it doesn't matter which weapon set you're using. But we still have the problem of passives. Wouldn't it be nice if we could specialize in both cold and lightning passives on the character? Well, in PoE 2, you can.
Oh, wait, this
We're
is a
on
new
the
skill
passive
tree.
skill screen here, and you can see that we're close to both a cold and a lightning cluster. At the top right of the screen, you can see where we have some weapon set specific points to allocate.
Oh,
If Octavian holds shift, he can allocate set 1 to the cold passives, and then allocate set 2 to the lightning passives. Now check this out. As we weapon swap, our passive tree changes from one build to the other automatically. Whenever we cast the appropriate spell, the character's passives reconfigure on the fly.
So
Direct build
you
for that spell.
this is actually incredibly deep because that means you could have basically 2 builds, right?
Spell. Now you can't do this with every passive on your tree.
Oh.
Only points granted from skill books will allow this kind of dual specialization. So you
Okay.
can't change from a mace slamming warrior to a
Oh,
fighter
okay.
with the press of a
I
button.
thought you could just have
It
2
certainly
completely
increases the
different
number of options you
Dang,
can
I got actually really excited about that one. That was
huge
pretty
number
insane.
of places where the system can shine. You could augment your dagger shadow build with traps, or have a great curse setup
It's
on
still
your witch
cool.
and one spec.
I would
and move your
have
cast
preferred it
off
just to
spells
let
with
us go
one.
double
Really
skill
opens
trees.
up
That
the
would have been crazy. But it's still good though.
Another fun meta gem to try out is called Barrier Invocation. This works a little bit like the trigger gem I talked about before, but this one charges up as your energy shield is hit by monsters. I think we might like to put an Ice Nova in this one. The more energy shield you lose, the more charge builds up until the point where you're able to cast the skill you
So does
socketed instantly.
Does it do it automatically or do I have to push a button? That's like the real question because I think automatically is
Lose
what
some
people
energy
want.
shield, and then at just the right time invoke Ice Nova to cast all the stacked up versions in one cast.
Ah, okay. So it's like cast 1 damage taken, but like in an unleash
Keep
form it
losing
charges
shield to build
amounts.
up even more charge for even more casts, so it's a great defensive option in an emergency.
But like, I wonder, can you cast like a steel skin or a molten shell and just stacks all of it? I don't know. Those are the questions. But man, I'm actually pretty blown away by the content so far, and I love that weapon swap thing is just godly. And the reason why, like, I play a lot of bow builds, so like having the ability just to swap into a barrage set, it's so much smoother for bossing, right?
And here we are back at the charge.
Or if
soul
running
core.
Flicker Strike
All
to
we have
swap
do
something
now
else.
Is take it. How hard could that be?
Probably gonna check out one more boss. How much time do we have? Okay, we still got
Have to remove it from that console.
2 minutes. So probably we're only gonna see one more boss, but like, I'm so excited about the release date. Like, please tell me it's this year. Let's see, so just like stand behind the boss again. Same PoE mechanics for the most part. A little bit of dodging there with the lasers like you'd have like on a spider boss, right? There's a triangular kind of attack, but in the corners there's, or in the angles, there's the spot that you're supposed to stand in. trying to like see how complex they're making some of these bosses, and so far it's like it's all right. So see, like it's like a triangle, but whoops. I was about to open up POV. So like in terms of like boss mechanics, you see like that right here is where you're supposed to stand. So I'm wondering how telegraphed these are. And since you can roll, like it feels like it's going to be a very responsive game. And just being able to animation cancel out of any attack. Well, I wonder if there's a way where like you get some sort of attack on the little evade, and because you can infinitely do it, it doesn't have a resource, it's got no cooldown. I was actually really surprised that they were going to let us have that. And I like how the players playing are actually like pretty decent. Sometimes, just for games in general, you get those journalists that like they just take all the damage and then they say the game's too hard, but like these guys know what they're doing for the most part, right? Awesome. Very cool, unique looking bosses too. I want to add like.
So that's Path of Exile
Okay,
2.
come on, give me the release
The next
date.
question is likely to be,
Yes.
when is the beta?
Yes.
Well, we're in our last year of development, finishing acts, adding skills, and balancing everything.
Last
The
year.
closed beta will start on June 7th, 2024. Path
So
of Exile 2
next
has
year
been
for
a long time
beta.
coming, and we're incredibly excited to be near the finish line. But we're not quite there yet. We are determined not to rush this and make sure that we get it right.
That's respectable.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, so what's cool with this is we got at
that,
least
freezing was
a
something you only really
idea maybe when it's coming out. So if the beta is 2024, maybe 2025 would be something that we can kind of look at, or maybe at the earliest, maybe November, maybe March of 2025. But what do you guys think of it? I'm obviously super impressed by every single thing mentioned, to be honest. Like it's looking really good overall. I don't have really anything negative to say about it. Graphics seems good, sound seems good, the dialogue of like the audio when they're talking to the NPC seems good. My real question is like I want to see what they're going to be doing for the endgame mechanics. I want to see what they're going to be doing for defenses, because honestly Path of Exile is a phenomenal game. I love Diablo and I love Path of Exile, but in terms of the endgame, I think one thing that a lot of people suffer from is specifically losing out on XP when you die, because the game gets significantly harder and there are certain things where you just have to dodge, and I'm hoping that this mechanic of being able to roll will really help out with some players that might not be able to get really expensive gear towards the end game, especially in the defenses department. But anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm obviously really excited for it, and if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on if you want to see more about Path of Exile 2. Well, I'll be covering everything I can because well, it looks pretty awesome. Anyways, take care. See you in the next video.